Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Today I have an extra special guest, Seth Stewart. He has a memoir called Follow Your Vision, Live Your Truth. It's a life story, it's a spiritual journey. From stages off Broadway to the depths of the jungle, Seth is a bridge between worlds. For over 20 years, his experiences as a performer and creator in the entertainment industry and his journey took a transformational turn somewhere in midway and through a spiritual calling that led him to go back to nature and go within your heart. His memoir explores the magic of nature, the quest to find answers as we all are looking. Look for spiritual evolution and discovery, unity consciousness. Through lived experiences, that's what I like, Seth, that you have to live it. You just don't talk the talk, you actually walk the walk. He's lived experiences, finding ancient wisdom and cosmic insights. Follow your vision, live your truth, invites readers to connect with their true self, find their vision with a capital V and contribute to global healing and grounded spiritual embodiment. Welcome to the show, Steph. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you so much.
Tell us a little bit about who you are. I mean, you've been in some wonderful Broadway plays, and everybody going in that high pressure entertainment celebrity world to going out to the jungle, as you put it, or into back to nature and have a reconnect. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I grew up wanting to perform my entire life, and my professional career started off at a really early age. By 20 years old, I was touring the world with one of the biggest recording artists. Um, right after that, I did my first Broadway show at 21 years old. And so I had a lot of professional, high caliber experience at an early age. And it just so happened that I was seeking by the time I was 18 years old, I was heavily seeking something spiritual and something that I didn't know what I was even looking for, but it was just a kind of a calling in my heart. And as you stated, it's a bridge between two worlds because I would go in the entertainment industry and then kind of be heavy on my seeking journey for months if I was finishing a Broadway show or finishing a tour. But I've done three Broadway shows. And really, as I got older, I realized the connection in entertainment and energy exchange with the audiences was one of my biggest takeaways. I was seeing how the seeking part of my life, understanding energy, understanding who I am as a person beyond the stage, was kind of starting to cross over how we were moving the energy and making the audiences feel emotionally or just energetically. I started to see the tie-ins and I was just trying to understand how this all works. That's been my biggest question as a seeker. Why are we here? What are we doing? Why does this not make sense? And what
That's
am I
true.
to learn from it?
Everybody has those questions, Seth. I mean, I understand it. You say so that people understand when you're on the stage and you're intuitive or sensitive like you are, you can feel the energy and the performance. And I think part and part that's what makes the play super a wonderful experience for people to be. But as an actor, you've experienced that in the warmth, and then you walk off the stage and ooh, you get cold, right? Do you feel that?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, and it can be such a drastic shift like that. And I thought I wanted to walk away from entertainment industry, and I did. I wanted to walk away from the industry side of it. But what it took me a very long time in this quest that we'll talk about and me kind of stepping away to follow my heart is that we still need storytelling. And I had to go back to realize how ancient storytelling was, the medicine in storytelling. And we've been doing it since being around campfires, and now we're doing it on Broadway and in film and things like that. So I still see a lot of benefit to storytelling as a whole.
Well, I think that's right. Everybody wants to know the story. You know, you hear about the guru. What's the story? You hear about somebody who has an awakening. What's the story? And you've had a profound, I mean, I'm going to compliment you here and say you've had a profound awakening, but I've found that in all the interviews I've met and the people I've met who are very serious, there is that aha moment. There's that revelation, like, what am I doing here? I'm living in the world. I'm spending my life. I'm spinning my wheels sometimes. And then there's this more important aspect. And you start that outward journey, you turn it around and you have that inward journey. And you went from the glitter and the limelight and the celebrities to being out in the forest. I mean, after feeling all this energy on the stage, and people get addicted to that, I'm sure.
Yes,
Okay.
they do. Yes,
I
they
have
do.
felt it myself. I try to be the same going on and the same coming off when I do a lecture. And that's the secret to my success as far as not feeling that up and down. But how did you do that? I mean, I understand that. And I think everybody's seeking, they want to know those stories. That's why you're here on the show, because our listeners are really eager to find out how people like yourself found that inner path and found that way. So, what was that moment? I always ask my guests, what was that moment? What was that moment that you said no to this way and let's find out about that way? Can you remember that?
Yeah. There were two instances, and I'll keep it short. One, I was actually on a flight back from London. I was dancing for Jennifer Lopez on a promo tour she was doing in London, and I was on the flight back to the U.S. and kind of that half awake, half asleep feeling that we all have when we seem to get a lot of intuitive, spiritual connection. I was
I
on the
call that
plane and
open
my
eye meditation. Open eye
exactly
meditation. Go ahead.
my reality split. I felt like the plane opened up and I was like, something's wrong here on this planet. And I don't know, maybe 25 years old. I said, something's wrong on this planet. I could feel it. I had a full-on anxiety attack on the plane from
Wow.
London to US. There's no getting off the plane at that point. You're already over the ocean. And it was that moment that I was like, something's not right on this planet. And it cracked me open. It cracked open my entire being. Fast forward a few years later, I went and was working at a primitive skills school, and I was doing a sweat lodge. And in that sweat lodge is completely dark. You're sweating with, 50 to 100 other people. You're going in a ceremony space. And I could hear, it was the first time I actually heard Earth Mother with, I call it like my third ear or my third and fourth ear. With my spiritual ears, I could hear her moaning and being in pain, and it broke my heart. And I kind of had a conversation, but she was like, I want my children to come home, meaning she wanted people that would listen to the earth, have a communion with the earth. And when I came out of that sweat lodge that night and I looked at the stars, I felt like a child reborn. I felt
Wow.
like everything was reactivated. And I went into the woods and I just sat next to a pine tree for probably 2 hours. I think I fell asleep against the pine tree, and I was never the same after that. And it was that sweat lodge that took me from, a few years earlier, my whole being cracking open, to this veils lifting, to now, okay, you want to come home? This is where it's grounded. This is where you're seeking and you didn't know it. I had to return to Earth Mother.
That's a profound experience. You're clairaudient, hearing Mother Earth and hearing. I believe the Earth is alive, and I believe the Earth rebels a little bit. We drop bombs on it. We do crazy
Yeah.
things, and Earth, Mother, as you put it, is saying, "Ouch," you know,
Yeah.
"Ouch." And so to have that ability, that community, that communication with Mother Earth, I think that was a pretty profound experience. And you were in your mid-20s, you said.
I was in my mid 20s. Yes.
Okay, wow. So you got a jump on the rest of us who are out there later on. I was about 24 and my experience happened too, so I'm not going to say it later. But anyway, the point being is like when you heard this and you went out and then you fell into a deep sleep, I suspect there was some up and down through dimensions and some soul traveling going on about that time. How did you get from that point of revelation to taking the next steps in your daily life?
It's a great question. I went back. I had a business. I went and did the business, and then something called me back. They were actually looking for an internship at that school, and I said, you know what? I have a successful business going on. But I have this calling in my heart that I need to go learn from these people. I need to go learn more about these sacred techniques of living with the earth, primitive skills, the philosophy of the ancients, how they connected to the deer. If they knew how they knew where the deer was, there was it's called a spirit that moves in through all things, is what my mentor taught us. And I was like, I want to know more about that because it makes the most sense to my being on stage and all of this stuff. It's what I do, but my soul is looking for something that I can connect to that is true, and it is connected to nature. And so I went and I worked at this primitive skills school for 6 months. I completely left the industry, and I was
Yeah.
living outside in a tent. And I had that's when all the spiritual communication, I mean, I was walking outside at night, back to my tent. Again, this is 6 months. I didn't really leave back into society unless we needed something. And the freaks come out at night. I would have spirits walking by me, and I had to begin to identify quickly, what is this warm air? Okay, that's a positive coming over my right shoulder. What's this cold air that went by? Okay, this is something that's trying to bother me. So I had to discern very quickly what these different energies were that were passing through the physical veil. I had to understand the different levels of the spiritual veils, and I had to start to find tools and sacred questions in order to get the communication between the spirit world and the physical world. And so that was like an intense 6 month training. And it really set the tone in a solid foundation for me spiritually.
Well, I can relate personally, but also as you're going through this discovery, or I would say rediscovery, or awareness, or self-realization, take your pick, you must have had a mentor or a coach or a teacher to help you when you say, "What is this?" You could say, "Oh, it's a breeze." I mean, our cynical friends would say, "Yeah, we're sitting too close to the campfire. That's why it's warm on this side and cold on that side." Everybody knows that. You're warm on the front
Right.
and cold on the back. Come on, give me a break, Seth. But
Right.
you were experiencing energy moving through you. I suspect beings or consciousness or nature spirits along those lines. Take your pick. How did you must have had a teacher is what I was going with. How did you find that out? Who was your teacher? Who was your mentor? Everybody needs a coach at a certain time, and then the world opens up for you and you have the coach from above rather than an earthly one. But when you were there living in a tent for 6 months, who was your guide? Who was your teacher? What happened?
So where I was interning was at a place called the Tracker School, and there was a gentleman named Tom Brown, and he had a way of teaching called Coyote teaching or Coyote teaching. And I would say, "Hey, this happened last night," and he'd go, "Uh-huh, uh-huh." He said,
Yeah,
and he would do this, "Go ask the trees." And I
really?
said, "Go ask the trees." He said, "Go ask the trees." So when the Coyote teaching was saying, you can ask the sacred questions. I could tell you what that is, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. Go talk to Earth Mother. Go talk to the spirit that communicated with you. Meaning, it was a guide more than I'm going to teach you. It was let the earth teach you. That was the biggest teacher. And so I had to start to find sacred questions, some of which he was teaching in class. So I was like, oh, they gave me the tools. Now I need to go use the tools when I'm having these experiences. And that was his way of teaching. I'm going to give you a tool set, whether you recognize it or not. And then I'm going to say, let the earth teach you. And without that, I don't think I would have had the discernment that I do, because I had to find those sacred questions. What being is next to me right now? What do you want? And then I have to feel into it. And so that discernment and just using the tools that he gave us is makes it a lot easier for me now, especially that it's almost 20 years later.
Yeah. Well, I could see the wisdom in that. Like
Yeah,
go talk to the trees.
go talk to the trees.
Okay.
And if you're
Because
listening and you're still, which was the biggest lesson that we had, and you're in a surrender state, not only will the trees and the earth answer you, but the spirit realm will come in and talk to you as well. But it was the biggest lesson in surrender, stillness. Open up your faculties beyond your five senses, beyond this physical realm. That is how you learn communication. Communication is part speaking and then listening. But what I
mhm.
realized is more listening than it is speaking. And that was a great tool to learn.
Well, the words in my mind are, you know, stop it. The silence is so loud. Everybody's telling me, like, stop it. I can't take it. But here, I'm going to pay a compliment, and then we're going to take a break. Uh, not only were you you had these experiences, so you had the truth, you found truth, you continued to seek, and you had this mentor who was very wise. And when he said, "Go talk to the trees," you didn't look at him like, "What?" and walk away. You had the wherewithal to say, "Okay," and you followed it. Okay, so your book is called Follow Your Vision, Live Your Truth. Your website is iamsethstewart.com. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back.